You showed up with
Well, I heard you fell.
Huh?
I heard you fell on your shoulder.
Yeah, I did.
Well, we didn't.
Did you trip him?
Huh?
Did you trip him and get
Yes, he did.
Even there.
You weren't even there.
Quinn was there.
You all the time, and I know that.
Quinn was there.
I forgot to bring my hearing aids, Joe.
And I'm quite mind.
I'm going to hear a doctor tomorrow at 8:30.
Google. If my impressions are back up, he's putting a new earpiece
Put your earpiece in.
Keep falling out.
Oh, really? What kind of phone you got? That's what I was going to ask you.
Well, we went through that the other day.
Oh, we did already? Oh. It's not an Android, is it? That's all right. They deal with it.
Yeah, I was saying, that's the first time I've been talking off
Well, but you got yours where you can just say whoever you want to do. Is that an app or is that just special? Or did?
Good to tell you, Joe.
I'd like to get that. When you're driving down the road.
Yeah. Works like a champ, yeah.
Hi, Joe.
I did 50. You governor
Yes. Yes.
How are you today? Yes, I'm going to be there.
Janet, just grab a chair anytime.
You're looking very dapper. That's right there. The only one you'll be closest to me. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just a helper. They asked me to call
Thank you.
Where's the cat?
Pretty good.
I mean, if they don't want to, that's fine. They can sit right there. But I think just work it out. Derek wants to sit right here because that's for them. You guys are going to be a little tired. Yeah.
You know, it makes it so much easier. Everything just one long line. I mean, I look at it.
Ready to throw a microphone in my face.
Somebody has to come through that. See that?
Saved.
We got a decent amount. Yeah, exactly. And if you drive my truck, you get
So, but I think no, I did the spreadsheet.
But if they look.
And I think it's not easy. What I ran into was taking subtracting the overtime and then getting the overtime. So I have to go there. taking the 3 places and another set of these, because it's round and it's not being looked at.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
You're talking to me. I have a budget that shows me. I love it.
Take a seat. Do you need a water or anything? Just put these back there. Put some restart here.
No, I don't.
Are you sure?
There's several reasons I don't tuck it in. I hear what he says.
Just let you know.
I smell it from a lot
Do you want this chair, man? Well, I really didn't want to be seen by you.
About 5 minutes.
I could have had 35, but I had to get down here.
Good that I don't know. Someone can sing if they want to.
You can hold me anyway.
You can make it a choir by the end of it. You know.
Pretty much.
councilors first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's.
Pull it out. You got the notes on there? What's that, password?
That's getting close to mine too as well, so.
So it will shut everything off.
No, it's this one line. I could just yell. I know, we all can.
All right, good evening, everybody. It is just a hair after 6:30, so we're going to go ahead and get this rolling. Hopefully, we can all be home before 10 o'clock, which that's our plan for sure. No, we're going to try and run through this just as quick as we can, but be as informational too as we can here tonight. First off, thank you all for showing up. We appreciate this. Me, myself, Max Blasky. Is that rattling in the back, Brian?
Is this better? Can everyone hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna use my voice because I work at KNDY and so I've got the radio voice. So we'll just make it work. On behalf of myself, Max Blasky, Charlie Barrington, and Terry Carter there in the back, we appreciate you guys being here this evening.
You got the mic.
Pick it up. There.
You shut the switch off.
As you can tell, we're not very into the speakers. Just feel that. you get it? Turn it on.
We don't want to speak.
See, that one's still on, so. Okay, you can't get started without a few hiccups, so that's just how she goes anyway. But anyway, of course, thank you to everyone showing up here tonight. Thank you, Danny Ackerman, Blue Valley TV, for being here tonight as well. I'm sure you can see this broadcast later on. I'm sure at a separate time if you want to go back and get any information. Again, we're here tonight for the Candidates Forum, an informational, not debate, but a forum between the candidates here in Blue Rapids. We will start with City Council here in just a little bit, and then we'll go over to Mayoral. If at any point you do have questions, flag down either Terry or Charlie. We have little notepads in the back. You're more than welcome to write down questions as we go along. We appreciate the questions that were submitted beforehand too as well. That did help us kind of gauge a sense of what everyone was thinking going into this in terms of concerns through the city and everything else like that. But if you do have one, grab them, write it down. No guarantees. We're going to get to all of them here tonight, but we do appreciate the concerns. At the end, we will have a little time where we can just kind of meet and greet, and if you have specific questions to the candidates themselves, more than welcome to hang around after that, chat amongst yourselves, ask those questions too as well. We try to keep these questions fairly open so that we're not particularly focusing on one thing, but trying to get just as much information out of it as we can. I guess without further ado then, I think that's kind of our whole goal too. Kind of how we're going to run this night is I will ask the question, or I'll first ask the city council members or candidates to introduce themselves, and then we will ask the question. Each candidate will have 3 minutes. They don't have to use all 3 minutes, but that's the time we have allotted them here tonight too as well. If you do have a follow-up, like I said, grab Terry or Charlie. You can write that one down. We'll try and get to as many questions here in about an hour as we can. If I feel like we've got through all of it, we'll just go ahead and run into Mayoral. And if someone shows up late, has some questions too, we'll kind of jump on into that. So without further ado, as long as the microphones work all right, I'm going to have the candidates introduce themselves. If you wouldn't mind giving a brief description about who you are, where you live, if you have any experience doing something like this, and just kind of in general, you know, why you're running.
I'm Doug Weitzel, as I think most of you know. I've been on city council now, I think 9 years, it'll be 9 years in December. One of the reasons I'm running is we've had a lot of goals we set when I first, well, especially when Jerry came on, but one of the goals we haven't reached yet, and that's the main reason I'm running, is to try to get some more housing in Blue Rapids. That's probably my #1 goal for the next 4 years.
I'm Derek DeBoer. I live here in Blue Rapids now and grew up between towns, and so kind of a lifelong community member of Valley Heights. My wife's the elementary principal in Waterville, so we're very invested in the community. I work in Manhattan at Blueville Nursery. I'm part owner and serve on the board of directors there. And currently I'm tree board president for the city of Blue Rapids here, to volunteer my time as part of the community there. I'm interested in serving in a further capacity as a council member, simply because I spend a lot of my time driving the streets of Blue Rapids and spending time thinking about and analyzing our city. And I feel like it's a tremendous opportunity for young families and older families and seniors to spend their time here in a rural community. I hold that very dear to my heart, and it's a big value for our family. And I want to promote that in our policies, ordinances, and the way we are strategically planning for the future, because I do see myself and our family being a part of the future of Blue Rapids. And we have a tremendous opportunity to develop our town. And, you know, I want to see more involvement from my own generation. And so I want to kind of open that door and if I can, be an example to that new generation coming up.
Thanks, Dick. My name is Joe Waters, and I'm probably older than both these guys put together. I've lived in Blue Rapids most all my life, except for when I was in the service and a short time when I was in Belleville. I have no access to grind. I would like to see the streets improved and the curbs and gutter or lack thereof improved, but they are. Other than that, I have no agenda other than to help the city as I can. I served as mayor at one time. I was on the council 3 or 4 different times.
Thank you, Jeff. You can just hold on to that if you want to start with our first question.
I'll start.
Derek gets to start that anyway.
Tough sitting in the middle to keep me from starting the questions.
Well, you know, someone's got to be the one that starts it. Okay, so first question we had for City Council was, in your opinion, over the next 5 years, what are the main needs that you see in Blue Rapid, and what are your ideas to progress those needs forward while you were in office?
So as we've already heard from Doug, that housing is one of the big priorities. And I feel that that is a tremendous need in our community because we do have employers in close proximity, whether it's in town or in the neighboring communities. Even I would count Manhattan as an area with employers. And people are desperately seeking employees and affordable housing. And one of the things that we need to improve on is providing that and accommodating that. And I've spent time actually analyzing the lots in our town, creating a map and that I can use that shows basically how lots are utilized, whether they are occupied by the residents, whether they're vacant, owned by citizens here in town, whether they're owned by absentee owners, meaning outside of the community, but they're vacant lots being used up, or even rental properties. So I've kind of analyzed that, and that's kind of the first step that I use to see how the town lays out, see what development strategies might be possible, and those areas of town that could potentially sustain a little bit of development if somebody was interested in coming in and developing. Otherwise, it also shows just those focus areas, I guess, that we need to look at when we're thinking about housing. So that's the first step. The other thing that I'm just trying to exercise is how we make and advise our citizens to be able to afford the housing that we do have or the opportunities that we have. We all know that prices are going up, so that's something that's very concerning, whether it's getting a builder or developer into the community, first of all, and then how to keep, if it's possible, I don't like government interference into prices and that sort of thing, but how we can enable affordable housing if we get those housing units built. And so that's a strategy that we'll have to work through, and I'm very much interested in doing that as a council member.
Okay, I guess like I said, the housing, probably our number one concern is going to be infrastructure. We've got a aging lift station out there that I would say in the next 5 years is going to have to be replaced somehow with bonds, with sales tax, somehow, and our sewer system is aging. It needs, Tanner just went through and took the camera down, I think all of it. And it's not as bad as what I anticipated. I was pleasantly surprised, but we do have some areas. We continually have water main breaks. I think the next 5 years we're going to have to address our aging water system. One thing that I get that the question wasn't asked, but this question is going to be on the ballot, is the sales tax increase. It's not an increase. It's the sales tax that goes off at the school at the end of the year. We're asking that sales tax be continued for city infrastructure and so forth to help with some of those repairs. And that turns into quite a few dollars. It turns into about $5,000 to $7,000 a month that we're paying to the school that could be coming in, if it passes, would come to the city to allow us to replace some equipment, to do, maybe replace the lift station, things like that. So I guess that's my concerns and what I'd like to see going down the road for Blue Rapids.
Okay, my first concern, I think, is our city sewer system and the streets here in Blue Rapids. I think we need to move on them before we do anything else. I'm an also conservative, in case y'all don't know it, so I'm against a lot of taxes. I think we can do a lot of this without it. I'm also, right now, that I think we ought to take a look at that could save us possibly money down the road is some type of county-wide law enforcement. But something that's going to have to be looked at. Other than that, why, we'll go with the status quo and see what happens.
Just hold on to it, Joe. You'll start our next one. Didn't get that lucky. Okay, so as Doug mentioned, this was kind of a follow-up question then to like the transfer and sales tax. Joe, you kind of answered it too as well. But what is your stance then on raising taxes for those projects that you talked about? And if it is not raising taxes, how do you plan on raising the funds to have those projects done and completed in a timely manner?
Well, I'm against raising taxes. We're putting a heck of a tax load on our young kids that are coming back here today. I don't know if we can keep adding to them having to pay more taxes. As far as some of this other stuff, I think there's maybe some programs that need to maybe go to the back seat for a while until we get some of this other stuff done.
I also don't like to see taxes being raised, but of the two, you look at sales tax and property tax, it's much more favorable, in my opinion, to adjust the sales tax so that the burden doesn't always fall on us as property owners here. I know one of the things that's being looked at is our water and sewer rates, and one of the big things that we're facing is that at our current rates, we're not eligible for a lot of the grants and other monies out there that could potentially help us with that sewer infrastructure down the line. And so we have to get more in line with collecting more from those rates. And so that would be one strategy to try to get those water and sewer rates back up to where they need to be so we're again eligible for some of those additional grants and funds down the road. And that's probably, like we're talking about, a 3 to 5 year strategy, but we have to get there at some point. And that's one of the ways that we can look at doing that.
Eric, I think I should have answered that question before you did. My answer is pretty much the same as what Derek said. I am in favor of the sales tax, and the main reason I am is because if we don't have the sales tax, there's probably going to have to be a increase in the property tax because you just can't provide services and not pay for them somehow. And in my opinion, the sales tax is the most equitable tax we have. If I go out and go over to Colby's and buy a $10,000 car and you go over and buy a $20,000 car, we're taxed equitably on the sale because, you know, we spend the same amount. So I think sales tax, if we can pass that, and like Derek said, we're working on our water and sewer rates. We have to, in order to apply for any type of loan or grant from KDHE, we have to have them at least not raised up to what they consider a reasonable level, but have a plan to enforce to do it. And we have started that plan as of last council meeting, if my memory serves me right. So, you know, the plans are in the works, but, you know, it's just a matter of time.
Reminder too, if you have any questions, tag down Charlie or Terry too as well. Love to hear from you guys as this evening rolls on. Doug, we'll go ahead and start with you on this one real quick. Derek had mentioned that little portion about grant writing. As you are on the city council, what kind of training or classes are you open to taking to help better not only the community here, but also your ability on the council to do different, I guess, tasks in its own right?
Well, as far as the grant writing, that is pretty much either Crystal or Jerry, or we have North Central Kansas Regional write our grants for us, and they've been very successful on it. One they wrote was for the swimming pool. They wrote the water meter grant. And, you know, as far as classes, I'm open to taking about anything, and I'm open to talking to the department heads if they have any problems or questions. I usually try my best to answer them if I can.
As far as grant writing, I've been able to, under the tree board, write for 2 grants. We'll see if they shake out. So I've tried my hand at that, and we'll see, I guess, how well I did. One of those was a very significant amount of money through the Inflation Reduction Act, and they were basically divvying out money for community forestry. And the way that was going to work was Kansas Forest Service was going to compile all of our grant requests and then submit one as a state, and then it would have to trickle down. So We're still not sure how that is going to be received. I have a feeling that maybe it already has been awarded because more recently the Kansas Forest Service has committed to another set of grants, and basically it's the same thing. The state has the money and it's going to trickle down to communities. So we just turned that grant request in. So I'm open to utilizing other sources for our grant writing, which would be encouraged. And I'm very much open to getting any kind of training that is recommended. I'm fortunate in the job that I work. I do have flexibility of schedule, and especially during winter months, to accommodate that sort of thing. So I'm very much open and eager to taking any kind of classes or courses that would help me understand my duties, both as a council member, but also how to be a leader in the community beyond that, and also help understand any of the department heads' positions, because there's a lot of things that will trickle down to the decisions we need to make, and we have to be understanding of how things actually work. And hopefully we have the diversity within our council that we can advise each other on those types of issues, but certainly more training would be open.
On the smaller grants, I'd be open to letting our city employees who are qualified write for them. Other than that, I think we would go to a professional grant writer. I think our chances are a lot better. They know what T's to cross and what I's to dot.
Derek, you'll start this next one. Kind of a community involvement question, but over your term, how dedicated are you to being present at, if not all, the majority of the city council meetings, and then filling that over into community events too as well throughout the year?
Yeah, so our council meetings are on Wednesdays, and currently I already have Bible studies every Wednesday, so that time slot is already, kind of set aside every month, every week, and so it won't be a problem to accommodate the council meetings. And as far as community involvement, I used to be active in the Blue Rapids Community Action Team, their volunteering time for different projects, and I hope to be a little more active in that as time goes on. I just had other time commitments when those meetings were going on, so if you'll see like the LED sign out here on the highway, the surrounding stone on that, the pocket park behind the building here, the lights on the mural and landscaping, those were all projects that I enjoyed being involved with. And I do enjoy being out in the community. Most of our priorities are with our small kids and their activities, so if those conflict, then I usually take the vote to our kids' activities, but I do enjoy being involved with the community.
Well, as far as serving on the council, I don't know that there may be one council meeting that I've missed in 9 years. I think I've pretty well have about a 99.9% record of attending all the meetings, and then any committee meetings or any budget meetings that we have had, I've sat in on them, sat with the accountant at the budget meetings, and actively involved in the community. I try to attend as many things as I can. Ball games, events here, I don't make them all, but I try to attend as many as I can.
There's 2 or 3 months out of every year when I'll tell you right now I'm not going to be here. I'm going to go to Arizona for the winter. But there have been other council members who haven't been to every council meeting who have been able to do it. I don't know what they call it. Zoom, whatever, that's, yeah. So I'd make most of them.
Boy, these guys are just flying through our questions. We had about 10 already, and we're already almost all the way through them too as well. So again, if you have any throughout the night, flag them down. We'll get you going. If not, we're ahead of schedule already, so we'll probably get to the mayoral questions here a little bit sooner than we thought. Looking at when it comes to voting for the betterment of the community as a whole, when your opinions disagree with your other constituents, how will you find a common ground, or how will you vote in that situation? I guess.
Well, there's this little word called compromise, I think. And if we can't compromise with each other, we're in trouble. when I was on the council before, when I was mayor, we were able to compromise, and very few times that we didn't come to a common agreement.
This is a little bit of a tricky question, I guess. Like, your opinions should always be based on what you think is true and right. And in most instances, I'd say you shouldn't compromise that. And so that's up to your integrity. But in a lot of what we're going to deal with in city council, I don't think is going to necessarily go that deep, and there still will be some disagreements. Like, I guess the way I would illustrate it is, and I didn't play football, but you watch a football game, there's a strategy involved, and a play is called to fulfill that strategy. Well, if the quarterback calls the play and the wide receiver doesn't agree with it, the wide receiver still should probably run the play. And that's a form of compromise, I guess, in my opinion. You know, he could disagree, but you're still going to go with the strategy and hope for the best. And it may work out. It may, you know, the receiver might be right and the quarterback wrong. But that's how I see it. We're going to have a common strategy, and a lot of the things are going to be worked out. Not necessarily a passing vote or anything like that, but I think a lot of the issues that we're going to look at and consider, we're going to have some continuity there, and we're going to kind of know the direction we're going to go in most instances. And I guess that's not really a compromise in my book, when we might have differing ways or differing steps towards that strategy, but that's the way I see it going.
Well, when you have a group of 5, you're not always going to be unanimous on everything. And what I have done over the years is I have been on the losing end of votes, but what I do is, even if I'm on the losing end, I support whatever we voted on. I realize that people have different opinions, but in the end, you've got to support whatever is passed. And I've been on winning sides, and I've had one council member where we went at it at one meeting and went and drank a beer afterwards. It's part of it. You got your beliefs, but when you get done, you vote, and whatever passes, that's the way it is.
Well, you're not done yet.
Oh.
You got about 2 more left. I said you were doing a good job getting through them. I didn't say you were done just quite yet. Not quite there yet. We're getting close to the end here anyway. When it comes to, I guess, the maintenance of properties here in towns, removal of, junk cars, debris, tractors, whatever the et cetera is, buildings, outlets like that, what do you plan to do to help Blue Rapids continue that, or where is your stance on that?
Well, my stance is that we need to continue to diligently work and try to get rid of those, because that's not what we want the town to look like. We've got ordinance and codes. I think they're in place for a reason, and we just need to enforce them. And people disagree with it, but I fully agree with what we have on the books right now.
I think I also agree with how the ordinances are now. Now I'm open to exploring some of that. I think there's some nuances to what we enjoy here in town. One of the things that I think we see maybe more in the summertime, like the demo derby cars and that sort of thing, that a lot of people enjoy, and I don't think that's wrong, but the way some of that is presented on our properties, we could take a look at that. I think the inoperable vehicles being stored on property inside the street and other neighboring properties, some of that needs to be cleaned up. And that's not just limited to vehicles. There's a lot of other construction debris and materials and things that we need to look at. And it definitely needs to be cleaned up, because ultimately, if we look at our properties as an investment, whether we intend to sell it at all at this point or not, we need to think about how we're affecting not only our neighbors, but our own property values. Like, if we're going to sell our property, how are we going to present that? And ultimately, we want our property values to rise. And so if I'm looking at that as my property, first of all, I don't want my neighbors' properties to go down, but even my own, I want to present it in a manner that is raising that value. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. I look at, well, if my property was like that, how would it affect me? if I look at my property, how is this going to affect my investment here? And so that's one of the things we need to look at and encourage citizens to look at. And, you know, a lot of the things that we do enjoy, whether it's like a project tractor or something like that, there is a cost involved. I mean, we have to go into those type of things as citizens, realizing what we need to do to be within the rules of the city. I mean, we are a community and there are rules in place to protect each other. Those things are a little more lax out in the county, and you can certainly have a property out there, but you lose all the amenities that you have in the city. So you have to abide by some of those rules. It's just kind of proper housekeeping. So I'm definitely in favor of cleaning things up. And that's more just a community interest. There's a lot of things involved with public safety and public health, and that's the reason those ordinances are written.
The ordinances that we have, I think, should be enforced. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If a person feels they're being slighted, they have every right to challenge it in the court of law.
Doug, you kind of answered this one already there. But when it comes to enforcing those codes and those violations too as well, what's your stance on not only, you know, enforcing those to the ability that they are written, but also open to, I guess, discussion on either change or reviewing them too if needed?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have an ordinance that has been proven is not working or is bad or isn't needed, then I think it can be changed. But I think it needs to be done uniformly, and nobody or no one individual singled out to be picked on or anything.
Yeah, so we've already made our stances clear, and so if there's any opinions, especially like a majority thought that things need to change, that's the purpose of council. Bring those to our attention, and we're open to review any of those ordinances, and that's the whole point that we're getting at here. Now there are probably some things that even, like majority is not always right, so there's probably things in regard to health and safety that we can't ignore or can't override or change the ordinance for. But in large part, we are a community and these ordinances are written for and by the people, I guess. And so bring those to council's attention. That's definitely something that we're open for. Now, if change doesn't readily happen, I think that's because we would know that it's not the proper time or it doesn't have the proper support. And so be patient. If there's a legitimate concern or want or desire that you have of city, of council, bring that to attention, and then prepare to be doing the legwork and the proof that it needs to be changed.
Here again, I answered last. But no, we have over the years looked at different ordinances and discussed changing them. You know, it's not something that we don't do, but most of the time we feel that they're in place for a reason, for health and safety, and we leave them in place. But we do discuss, not regularly, but off and on, ordinances that maybe we think could be changed or need to be changed. And what we need is input from the citizens more than the council deciding whether we need change, because if the demand's not there, you know, we don't know that there is possibly a need for a change. And as far as enforcing them, I think we need to enforce them, or otherwise, why have them?
Okay, last one here for you guys. So I'll ask the mayoral candidates to come up here, take a seat, and we'll get on to them here in a little bit too. If you have any questions, we'll go over those here while we're going over the mayoral, and then we'll ask you guys just to hang around if you would, and we'll ask you those at the end, if that's all right. Thank you, Terry. Okay, I can kind of combine those as well. Okay, last question for the city council from this segment, and then two, if you have any that you have for mayoral, same rules apply to as well. How do you plan to control waste and abuse, not only financially, but sometimes with time too, in the city to make sure stuff is done in a timely, respectful manner?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I try to pretty much be a hands-on. Crystal can verify this. I'm probably in the office, at least once a week, if not more than that. I talk to Tanner, I talk to Ryan, and if you try to make sure everything is not being wasted, and I'm sure everybody has an opinion on where there is waste, and I have opinions where maybe we could cut back on some things too. It's just I want to try to be a hands-on council person and kind of see what's going on day to day a little more than probably a lot of people do. I know Crystal probably gets tired of me coming into the office, but I was there today. I'll probably be there next week. Every time I go to the bank, I stop at the city office.
Yeah, I would hope that we'd have access to the budget and any expenditures that we need. A good thing to have is a system of checks and balances, so you definitely don't want the same person receiving the money that's paying the bills. In a business, you'd have accounts receivable and accounts payable to have a check and balance between those. And we do have a treasurer and clerk, so I think that's there. But beyond that, you could look at the budget. When I was running the resale division of Blueville at our garden center, I'd always look at budgets and expenditures. You'd look at multiple years at a time and kind of average those out. And if there was any big portion that stood out to you, you'd really analyze that. You'd look, especially from the expenditures side, you'd look for a line item report to be pulled, and you could see what expenses came across as excessive, and then you'd analyze that further. So you can look at that from like the hard goods and materials you purchased. You could look at wages. That would be one for like a time management strategy. If you're looking at a lot of overtime being pulled from one division that's excessive, you could analyze it from that. I like the hands-on approach. We're a small enough community. We can usually drive around and see where everybody's at. So from Public Works, we can analyze that. We can see what gets done. There are reports that we get at council meetings, for instance, with what people have accomplished in that month. And so you can see what projects have been worked on, and you can analyze that for yourself. And that's open to public. That's not a public forum by any means, but you can come to those meetings and see that. And then if you have concerns, address it with a council member. But I do like being able to see our public servants and our employees out working. And we even would have the opportunity, I believe, to kind of job shadow our employees and understand their duties. And we could look at, I think, at the last council meeting, it was mentioned that job descriptions were being written and being brought up to date. And so we could look at those job descriptions for each employee and see if they're fulfilling the tasks that they say they're doing and what might be lacking or above and beyond. So there are different strategies that you can use, just similar to operating or overseeing any employees and any budgets.
Well, that's why the council should get that report every month, which they are getting at this time. It's up to each individual council member to look at these reports and analyze them. If they have questions at the council meeting, ask the department heads why this is this or why is that. That's how we do it.
All right, you guys can wipe your brow. You're done here for a little bit. We'll give you a little break here too as well. Of course, if you have questions, thank you for submitting those. We'll do a little mayoral here. Then we'll go back to city council here a little bit. And if we have any for the write-ins for the mayoral too as well, then we'll go back to that too, as well as the evening continues. So again, thank you guys for that. Okay, on to mayoral. Kind of the same rules apply. First question, I'll just have you guys introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what your goals are for running for mayor, and a few of your wishes if this position is to become yours.
Well, first of all, sorry for my voice. Had an operation, woke up, didn't have a voice, so it takes away a lot of the enthusiasm that I carry. So, most of you know already, I'm the current mayor, and I decided to run for re-election because we have things we haven't finished yet. The number one challenge that we have in the city of Blue Rapids is the challenge of high taxes, property taxes, that were brought about because of lack of affordable housing, a decline in population, economic development, a decline and no emphasis on the businesses, and then aging and old infrastructure. All those have a bearing on our taxes. The other thing is, we have to engage our youth, and we have to do a better job as a city in doing that. We also must never forget our seniors. Our seniors have special situations, and here in the city, we do things to make it comfortable for them, whether they play pinochle here, whether they're able to use the pool in the act when the pool closes, and they could go out there and do that. Currently, we're doing Medicare Part D here, and we also coordinate with RSVP in Marysville for free tax services for our seniors. The big challenge that we have is what they call apathy and low self-esteem. A city does not die because a building goes away. A city does not die because of the streets not being taken care of. But a city will die if we are apathetic and not involved. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've seen it happen, and we have to work on our self-esteem. I've been around for a while, I'm pretty street smart, and let me tell you what I was trained, that you could tell a place or a person has so low self-esteem when you're the new guy and you come to a city and they ask you the question, why did you move here? Think about what I'm saying. It should be, man, I'm glad you're here. Look at all the things you have. You got this new business out here. And any thoughts of expanding? Any thoughts of, but when we get down to, why are you here? You might as well ask me, why in the hell did you move to this dump? That's what you're really asking. We got to do better than that. And so there's more things to be done. I would encourage and challenge you that the office of mayor with no vote, I don't have a vote, it's run by council, that you have to be an encourager. So I want to continue because we're not done yet. We have momentum. Just take a look around. We have momentum.
My name is David Zhang. Can you hear me?
No.
I've lived here 10 years. I raised my kids here.
A little close.
Real close, like almost close.
Really?
There you go.
Anyways, I'm a single dad. Raising my kids on my own. I've done it for 10 years. They want to talk about infrastructure. We all know our streets are crap. There's no doubt about it, our water. But nothing's being done. Nothing's being done. It's just all talk. It's all talk. Our law enforcement is a joke. It's a joke. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. Something needs to be done, and it needs to start with them. They need to be held accountable. That's my biggest problem, is with law enforcement. They're here to uphold a job that they don't do at all. And I've been victimized, and so has my kid, and nothing's been done. Nothing. At all.
Okay, kind of like the first question for the city council. In your opinion, kind of went over that there a little bit, but an important issue facing Blue Rapids, or three of them if you have them, and then how you plan to correct that too as well.
Well, going back to the tax base, first of all, council and mayors have to know how to read the tax paperwork, okay? And we've been doing a good job at that. For those who don't know and are complaining about tax taxes. Since I've been mayor, the city mill rate has been the same, except for this last year. This last year, we went down to what they call the revenue neutral rate. The revenue neutral rate means as far as the city portion goes, you will not experience any type of tax increase. But remember, there's 6 entities involved in there. And that was hard to do because we also cut 18% in expenditures. Okay? So you have to cut, but you also have bills to pay. We have a water system, which right now, we're running in the red. It's been running in the red since I've been mayor. Because we have to decide to make the hard decision to increase the rates that nobody wants to do. But you can't continue to operate a water utility in the red. As far as housing, we have a housing ad hoc committee, which we meet. We're actually meeting on Thursday again. Looks like we probably have a contractor that's able to build 3 new houses here in Blue Rapids. We'll see how that goes. That's a priority. And the second priority is to get new people into our town by being encouraging, not just friendly. Anybody could be friendly. Be welcoming and encouraging. As far as economic development, we really have to look ourselves in the eye. When we did a rehash of our goals, economic development, we did not really do much. And I'm not happy about that. I think we could do better. We got 2 new businesses in town. We have several of them that are doing good. Success stories abound with Riverside Market and Mark's Place. Man, buy local. Buy local. We have to work our way around that and support those businesses because they too bring back a lot to the community. As far as infrastructure, we have come up with a 20-year plan, thanks to Tanner and the ad hoc committee that works that to fix our infrastructure. It's old, it's aging, it's decaying. It's going to cost money. And there's no way, if that half cent tax doesn't pass, I'm going to tell you that your property taxes have to go up. Someone has to pay for it. And like I've told several of my friends, okay, it's easy to be on the other side, but which side of the street do you does not want to have water? Okay, so think about it that way.
Now, I don't agree we need to raise taxes at all, you know? Like I said earlier, I'm a single dad raising 2 boys by myself, and also taking care of my elderly mother, who has fell twice in the last 3 years and broke both her hips. So, you know, they want to talk about elderly, the water, infrastructure, housing, any of that. It's just all talk. It is all talk. It's been all talk for the last 4 years. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
Jared. Jared, we asked, not a rebuttal, not a debate. This is a forum. Thank you. Financially, what is your position on the number of law enforcement officers and vehicles in the community compared to other towns in this county? And David, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail, but, you know, I've had a lot of things happen to me in this town, from my tires being slashed. And law enforcement knew before they made it around the block who had done it. Okay, it cost me $1,000 for new tires. Nothing was done. Right? Nothing was done. They didn't even care. They didn't even care. So, I mean, the facts are the facts. Our biggest issue is law enforcement. A lot of you people probably don't even know about the high-speed chase that went through here last year, do you? My kids walk this street. And if you think yours are safe, you're wrong. You're wrong. My kids is why I'm here today, for their sake. The streets aren't safe. That should have never happened. That should have never went through here. Not only did it endanger children here, it endangered children in Waterville.
So I guess the question is why we have 2 police officers. So
Part-time,
we have 2 full-time.
it took an hour for that cop to get to my house.
David, we asked you to let Jerry answer the
Okay.
question.
So we have 2 full-time police officers, and we have 1 part-time position, which is occupied by 2 part-time people that rotate. So the cost of the city are the same. So before my time as mayor, the mayor at that time decided to look at how many police officers the city has based on hours. By law, each police officer can only work 86 hours in a 2-week time frame. When you do the math, you find out that that's short, considering that a police officer is on duty 24 hours a day. So he decided with council, and I have confidence in council at the time, they made that decision. When I came on mayor, we analyzed that, and we decided to use the standard set by the FBI averages. FBI averages for a town of 900 is 2 full-time police officers, 1 part-time police slot, and 1 part-time administrative assistant. Okay? Now those are the numbers we decided to go by. However, I really think, based on what I'm hearing today, is why don't we convene a town hall and think about a community policing type force? We could do that, or even like Joe mentioned, a county type force. But remember, if the county gets involved, what do you think the first thing they're going to ask? Who pays for it? Okay, then it goes back to square one. So those are very good questions that need to be addressed.
We'll stick with you on this one, Jerry. As the mayor, you're kind of the face of the city, or the one expected to be at many events or things throughout the year. How do you plan to be active and engaged in the community's priorities, and then communicating the city's visions, your visions, to the community in a manner in which they can understand it?
Well, currently, the last 4 years, I spent about 40 to 60 hours a week here working on city type affairs. I'm involved in almost every single activity there is, from the Burcat to the Chamber to the Community Watch, Blue Rapids Community Foundation. The mayor is the spokesperson for the city. He has to be vigilant and he has to be engaged. He has to be out, and believe it or not, when citizens talk to me, I do normally address it to the council. I do a weekly update to the council. I've done that for the last 4 years. Copies of which I gave to Lori, okay, to be put into the museum. And most of those are your concerns that you have given me, okay? And if the mayor is not vigilant, he's not active, why even be a mayor? You have to go to Topeka, you have to go to the commissioners, you have to seek grants, you have to find out who are the movers and shakers, and out of all things, you have to go to Waterville and work with them, okay? Because I firmly believe we could do a lot more together than we can separate.
You know, I may not have answered any of these questions correctly, and, you know, I don't really care. I don't really care. There's a lot of people in this community that are not happy with what's going on, and even a lot of the local businesses aren't happy. They aren't happy. They aren't happy with what they see going on in this building every day. As much as they want to sit here and say that everything's kosher, it ain't. Everybody in this community knows what's going on. Everybody. And if you don't, then you need to open your eyes. I mean, I'm just gonna tell it how it is, you know? I'm not here to lie to you. I ain't here to make up stories. I'm not. I'm just here for facts. And if you guys honestly believe your children are safe in this town, walking around whatever they do, you're wrong. My brother was almost ran over by a cop walking across the highway, if that tells you anything. Ran over. And nobody being held accountable up here. Nobody. We need accountability is what we need.
Again, if you have questions too as well, please submit them to Charlie Terry. Obviously, try and keep you on track. We're running through these here pretty good too as well. Got a few more left, about halfway through here. So we'll get through them just as quickly as you can. Obviously, both of your two concerns, major them, and throughout this evening's discussion has been sales tax, increase, decrease. Transfer sales tax too has been a big topic here recently. So what is your stance on that transfer of sales tax? And if you do believe that sales tax is not the way to increase revenue or bring money into the city, do you have other ideas or options that can be presented? I guess as other options.
Okay, so when I first became mayor, I inherited a decision that was the pool. Remember the pool? Well, guess what? Where was the payment for the pool coming out of? Your property tax. It was coming out of property taxes. That's why we had to vote to come up with a half-cent sales tax, which is what normally pools go on. For the half-cent sales tax for the infrastructure, I really don't see any way that we could keep or lower our property taxes if we don't do that. I really don't. You're talking about $12 million in 20 years. Now, if you want, okay, like someone told me, cut expenses, okay. What side of the road you want to cut? What roads you don't want paved? Who wants to get water service? Who wants to get sewer service? Those are decisions that have to be made. If you don't believe me, come talk to me. I'll show you the data. So it's serious. And I tell you what, I hate sales tax. I hate property tax. I always have. Okay? But when you're up here and you're looking at it and you realize you have 5 council members who are engaged, the best council members probably in the state of Kansas, who have to rack their brains and figure this stuff out and make decisions. It's hard. It's a hard decision that people are not going to like, and I get it. But it could be worse. We have things on our property taxes that probably shouldn't be there. In fact, I know they shouldn't be there. But we have to live with it. So I'm all for it. I would encourage you to vote yes on it.
I don't need to hear the question, I guess, huh?
Do you want it again? I give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just asked, the transfer sales tax is a big topic coming up, and it's been a conversation on how to, increase revenue or bring revenue in without a sales tax. So what's your stance on that? And then if you are opposed, do you have a plan or an idea of how to continue to bring revenue in for projects such as city streets and sewers?
Well, I don't think we need to raise taxes, that's for sure. But like I said, like I've been saying, like I'm going to continue to say the rest of the night, we need to hold our law enforcement accountable. And I'll tell you what, the day there was an incident in my house with my kid, I run 80 miles an hour from Marysville to here, and I passed 5 sheriffs, 5 of them. Do you think they pulled me over? Negative. So it's not just law enforcement, it's our sheriffs too. They didn't care. Then I waited an hour at my house for a cop to show up because my kid got beat up by another kid in my house and nothing was done. I'm not saying write everybody tickets, but if you're breaking the law, you should be paid for it.
Again, we ask that candidates answer the questions that are asked too as well. When bringing business into local merchants, that's been a topic of conversation. How can the city persuade the community to shop local when the city tax is where it stands right now, which I believe is at the 9% mark?
Good question. I don't know, but I know a lot of you go to Manhattan, right, to buy stuff. 10.75%. I haven't heard anyone complain about that. The reality is when you look at the books, you talk to the PhDs and the experts, and I actually believe this too. When I go buy some at the Riverside Market or Mark's, I don't worry about the sales tax. I never have. Now when I buy expensive things, okay, so why would I want to buy a car in Manhattan at 10.75? Yeah, so no one likes it, okay? And no one likes the increase in property tax. But sometimes you have to look at the better of two evils. Sales tax, everybody has to pay it. Everyone that comes through is going to pay it to help offset what we need to accomplish. In infrastructure, why don't we let people that come visit our town do the Blue Rapids Road Ramp? Why don't we let them help pay for part of the infrastructure instead of the property owner and stuff? So that's where I'm coming with that. But yes, it is hard to do that, and we have to make a better emphasis on buying local and supporting our local businesses. And I tell you what, their margin of profit is like that much. It's not much. So don't be telling me they're millionaires. Okay, they're not.
Do you need it again?
Yeah.
We were just talking about when bringing in local merchants, how can the city persuade the community to shop local when the sale tax is at that 9% mark?
I choose to, shop local, support your local businesses. I mean, that's just who I am, But sometimes it doesn't work that way, I mean, we live here, we should support each other no matter what. I mean, whether it's your kids walking the streets or my kids walking the streets, yeah.
We've got one more question here for the mayoral before we go back to city council. Again, thank you all for hanging out here. If you do have questions, I see Terry's bringing me a few more here, but we'll jump over here in just a second, then get back to these. Again, at the end of this, if you want to hang out, we're more than open to open discussion. You can talk to the candidates amongst themselves too as well if you have some more one-on-one type of questions. So last one for you guys here. How will you plan on being active and engaged in not only enforcing the codes and the laws too as well in the city, but I think kind of as that first question asked a while back too, visibility inside the community too as well is ever so important. How do you plan to stay visible and I guess connected with the community? Jerry, if you want to start with this one.
So, first of all, when I became mayor, I had 3 people come in there and request a pardon for something they did. But it's the laws of the state of Kansas, mayors cannot give pardons. I can't do that. I guess that's what the thing was. Number 2, the codes are easy. Just read them. Enforcement. The mayor's job is to enforce the city code and city ordinances. Once a week, we have a meeting with department heads, and they have to report back on issues that are going on in the city, problem areas and stuff, and what we could do to make it better. So, if our law enforcement's not doing anything, then why do we average about 1 domestic disturbance a week in this city? Why do we average, well, not average, why did we have 47 code enforcement tickets given out within the last 2 months? There are things happening. And sometimes we don't do a good job of presenting that information to the public, and a lot of it has to do with privacy concerns. There's privacy concerns. So to be vigilant, as a mayor, you have to hold the department heads accountable. And by the way, talk to them. I've heard one person said, Crystal tells me what to do. Why don't you ask Crystal that or Ryan that? I think they will disagree with that, okay? But it was probably the biggest compliment that was paid to me. You know why? Our clerk has a job description of 3 pages long. And they've never been held accountable for it till I became mayor. Our police officer has another one, 3 pages long. I do performance evaluations, and they get reported to council. Ultimately, council makes the decision on what happens to our employees and how their performance is going. And they do that mainly on pay and benefits.
Question. Did you need it again? Yeah. Kind of just a quick overview of enforcing laws and ordinances in the city, and then 2 as well, being engaged in community. How important is that to, I guess, you if you were to win the term?
Well, I mean, you guys want to say, enforce the laws. I mean, I'm here to tell you that they tried to enforce a law against me, and it didn't work. They tried to take my freedom of speech, if you don't recall. And if I hadn't stood up to them, you wouldn't have one. You wouldn't have one. They'd have taken it from us. Period. They make up laws. They can sit here and say, we didn't single you out, we didn't target you. That's exactly what's went down. I was singled out and I was targeted. And they tried to take my rights from me. Even though they swore under oath to uphold the Constitution, foreign and domestic, they still infringed on my First Amendment. Yours too.
Jerry, can you hand me that, please? Thank you, 2. We appreciate it. 2 as well. Thank you for the questions, 2 as well. We'll get to those here in just a little bit. Again, as always, if you have some afterwards, more welcome to hang around, have some cookies. Thank you, Lonnie Johnson, for coming here early and getting those warmed up. If you weren't here at 6 o'clock, it felt just like a baking shop. So it was real nice to be here. Okay, had a few more here for City Council, and then we will go back to a few more with Mayoral, and then wrapping up quotes. It's just a hair after 7:30, so I'm thinking we'll be out of here by 8, so we're pretty much right on time with it. Doug, I'll just let you start since you're right to the left of me here real quickly. A question from the audience. When voting for things or bills or something of the matter that come up to you in City Council, how much into consideration will you take the wishes and the concerns of the Blue Rapids citizens, and then how will you be open to engaging in those conversations when those times do arise?
Well, when voting on anything, if constituents talk to me, I will definitely take in their considerations and use that to make my judgment. But most of the time, people don't talk to you and you don't know what the constituents want. So you need to be vocal and let us know what your stance is so we have an idea what the public wants instead of just complaining afterwards. I see several council members shaking their head also.
Well, I'll tell you something that I try to do most on the weekends. So when we have things going on around the house, I'll ask my wife, what are your expectations of me this weekend? And a lot of times she doesn't really appreciate that because she thinks that I'm trying to have her call the shots, but I'm sincere in asking that. And to Doug's point, that's what we need to know. We have things on our mind, and largely your vote should align with like our values and hopefully what we've come across as holding our beliefs tonight on different issues. But we are asking that, what are your expectations of us? And when those are brought to our attention, you know, we have a strategy and a vision for the town that's been set forth, and I believe council probably had input in that. And so we can discuss, you know, what your wishes are, how they align with that strategy, and we can advise and give as much insight as we can onto why that may or may not work. And we need to be open to your suggestions and bring that to council as part of the discussion. But we do ask, that's maybe one of the things, so communication is one of those points to the strategy. I think there's 6 of them. Communication is one of them, and that's a big issue in my mind. You know, I'm of the generation, the newspaper doesn't mean so much to me. It's kind of phased out in my generation. We've turned to social media and the internet, and that's good for fast information, but some of that's misinformation, and we can't rely on that too much either. So how do we communicate with everybody in a factual manner? It's good when we see community present at council meetings, and when we have people's ears at activities, and when we can observe what's going on. But we need to have that good, meaningful conversation about what can happen with our citizens, with our business owners, as consumers, as residents here, even with guests and potential people that would want to come and settle down here. So we really need everybody's voice, and we need to lend an ear to that and be open to suggestions. But again, you probably know our values. We're all members of the community, and we need to stay firm to what we believe is right and true and within the strategy of our community.
Can I speak?
Can you do that?
I'll allow it this one time. I'll allow everyone one rebuttal, I guess.
I guess I don't really have a rebuttal, but what I would like to see at a council meeting is all your faces at the council meeting. Most of the time we come to a council meeting and there's 5 or 6 people here. This would be great if all of you would show up to council meetings. Because that way I know as a council member you have an interest in the town. I would love to see this many people at a council meeting.
Max, can I ask a question, seeing how you're giving a little leeway there?
No, if you write it down and give it to Terry, then we'll take a
It's
look
not a
at
bad
it.
question,
I know, I understand that, but his really wasn't a question, I guess, returns to the statement. But if you want to write it down, we'll take a peek at it real quick, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'd have to disagree a little bit with Derek on his comment. If I asked my wife what she expected of me, I never would make it to a council meeting. But, you know, I think most of you people sitting out there know that you can talk to your council people. And then, you know, you elected them. If they can't listen to you, they shouldn't be on the council in the first place.
Derek, do you want to start with this one real quick?
Sure.
I think we've kind of asked this question a little bit, but a little more in depth. Do you believe that it is necessary to have the multiple officers, multiple vehicles here in Blue Rapids when it comes to the law enforcement side of it?
You know, I have to actually study it. I'm glad that some of the statistics were tossed out by Mayor Zayas, because that's something that we don't necessarily see, the behind the scenes and what's required of a community. And I don't mind that when I'm driving the streets, I do usually see a law enforcement vehicle present, and I see law enforcement present at community events and school events and that sort of thing. So from that perspective, I think we're adequately served. And I do feel like we have, beyond, you know, going through maybe proper channels to engage law enforcement, I think any of them are approachable on the street from that aspect. So I appreciate that. As far as, you know, maybe budget concerns and time allotment, that would have to be studied out a little bit further.
Run that question by me. We gotta kill some time here, man.
I gotta hear it again too, Joe. Question was, do the city council members believe it is necessary to have the 3 law enforcement and multiple vehicles here in a town the size of Blue Rapids?
I think I made that, my feeling on that pretty, when I talked about that earlier. I'm still in favor of looking. I'm not saying that's the way to go, but I think we need to look at countywide law enforcement. That's it.
Well, I was on council when we did go to a second officer and a second police car. And one of the reasons we did was because of the hours that we were requiring of our one officer, and we were going to have to pay so much overtime based upon the hours, because there are federal laws that say you can only work so many hours, be on call so many hours. And so the council, or the mayor at that time, presented a plan that could actually show that it saved the city money by going with the second officer, and then we chose to go with the second police car. And if you don't go with 2 police cars, you've got to do what I guess you call hot seat. And then if our car is down, then I guess we're on foot for police officers. We had one of them that had an issue just a couple weeks ago, and we just were down to 1 vehicle. And if we hadn't had the 2 vehicles, we'd have been down to 0. And as far as the county-wide, and I think that's probably a thing that's coming. I don't know if it's going to be real soon, but I think it's an issue that, an option that we need to look at. I know Riley County gets along with it pretty good, but I think Riley County is the only one in the state that has a county police force also. So that says something for only one county has it, so maybe there's other issues that would be involved.
We can go ahead and start with this one. They're not quite done yet. Not quite done yet. This is kind of a mayoral / city council question. We'll ask it to city council first. But when it comes to encouraging new building of homes and businesses here in the community, has the idea, or is the idea of, let's say, a 5 to 15 year prorated tax reduction or anything of that sort encouraging to you? Or if not, what are your thoughts on something like that to encourage new homes being built here in the community?
Well, currently I believe we have a 10-year tax reduction, and I'm all for it, because guess what? Yeah, you're giving up property taxes for 10 years, but that house is...
You just have to yell.
You're covering the antenna with your head.
Oh, that house will be, will definitely be there for more than 10 years, so you're giving up a little bit in order to get a lot, in my opinion. And I know we've looked at different incentives as far as if somebody wants to build a new house, the city will pay for water and sewer hookup and not charge the new homeowner that. We've worked with different ideas on helping new businesses out, because new businesses, if you're just starting up, you've got a lot of cost in that first year that you're incurring that, you're not going to probably get recouped right away. So the city's looking at several things we can do to help new businesses come into the town also.
I guess I don't mind some tax breaks on new properties. I do know that, just from public perception, that we're doing improvements on our property and property taxes keep going up and up and up. And so you feel like that might be a little bit unfair to citizens who have been here for a while, and then, new people or new businesses get those kind of breaks. I think personally, in the interest of attracting new businesses and properties, I don't mind that. I'll suck it up and take my lumps, and that's okay. But I wonder if, along with that, just the public perception of our town, just cleaning up properties and we've made big progress on the city square. I hate to see old buildings go down, but the way that things have been going, it's almost inevitable. And allowing those properties to be developed or at least cleaned up, and public perception might attract new businesses and new properties as well. I know that's an issue with housing. You look at potential buyers coming through town, and they might be more attracted to other areas where there's more flexibility. Not that other bigger towns don't have similar problems that we do, but it's spread out a little bit more, and there are some other options there. So I'd like to see maybe both strategies come into play.
I wouldn't object to a tax reduction on new houses being built, nor would I be object to looking at, in the case of Derek, for example, the work they've done on their house with some kind of tax reduction on it to encourage more some of these other houses being fixed up.
Joe, you want to just hold on to that one? You get to lead our last question here for City Council. Again, if you have any, we'll get those in here before we get wrapped up with it. Didn't say which one, but I'll ask City Council this one. In regards to the talk about cutting budget and everything else of that matter, has there been a consideration, or would you consider looking at the number of employees that each department has? And is that something, I guess, you would take a look at in terms of decreasing that or not?
Being in business for as many years as I was, I think every year it was my duty to look at that. I'm not saying that should be the case, and in many cases, we end up hiring employees instead of getting rid of employees. I think it needs to be looked at every year.
I agree, kind of with Joe's point there. We spend a lot of time searching for employees where I work, and it's gotten to the point where you better have a backup employed in almost every position because turnover is extremely high right now, and everything is very competitive from wages and benefits and from even flexibility from working remote jobs and that sort of thing. Even education standards are changing rapidly. So looking at the state that we're in now, I don't think more employees, just looking at the surface of it, is an answer, but you better have people ready to cover every position. And you know, like what we went through in 2020, there's a lot of unknown variables in a situation like that. So you got to be careful about that, and just trying to attract the kind of people, just good employees that are going to hold a job for a duration is quite a challenge these days. And so we want to be careful with how we manage that and encourage the talent that we do have under each of these department heads so that they can fill in and so that we can potentially attract the next generation. We don't know really anybody's situation, as far as that goes. So you kind of want to be careful about how loosely you look at that issue, because when you have people willing to hold a position, and when each of these divisions of the city takes a separate set of skills, and it's a little bit unique in each one of them, and you want to hope that each person holding each position is going to be around for a little while just for the continuity of it, and so that things work relatively well. So I don't know that we're overstaffed in any department, but we definitely want to be careful with how we look at and evaluate all of our employees.
Well, I would have to agree. I don't think we're overstaffed on any of our departments. I mean, we look at every year employees, especially like summer help, and I don't think we're overstaffed there. One thing that I would like to put a shout out is I think we've got very good employees, and I hope they're happy, and I don't want to have to go through the replacement of employees. You know, it takes 6 months to train somebody, and I want to keep the employees happy. And I think I definitely don't think we're overstaffed. I don't think we could probably justify hiring more. We probably could use more, but I don't know that we can justify it.
Thank you, guys. We'll take one more break. Let you do closing comments here in just a little bit. Jared, you want to pass that to David? He'll start our next questions. Last set of round for the mayoral questions, unless we get any more here. Probably have some more. It's getting on 8 o'clock, so we'll run through these as fast as we can. Of course, if we don't get to them, as always, we're going to stay late too as well. We can talk to the candidates as well. Starting with you, Dave. When it comes to spending time in office or here in city or throughout the community, how much time are you able to commit to each day if you were to be elected on certain aspects, such as coming in and working with the city clerk or working throughout the community?
You know, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty busy with my kids and taking care of my mom. You know, I just wanted to come here today, and let you guys know, there's things that need to change here. There's things that need to change, and we all know it. Our infrastructure, our roads, our water, we all know it. We all know it. It's doing it is a different story, I've raised my kids for 10 years here, and I've done it by myself. By myself. You know how hard that is on one income? Most of you probably don't know. It's not easy. It's not. And I've been drugged through the mud in this town, and I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. That's all I gotta say. I'm done.
You don't need me to ask it again.
About being engaged.
Yeah.
Okay. So understand that the mayor's position is voluntary. You need to look for someone who's going to be engaged and vigilant, as I mentioned before, and be dedicated to the citizens of the city, listening to their concerns, their gripes, bitches, and it doesn't bother me too much until some of them make it. They do personal attacks. Be careful with personal attacks, because I could bite back. And I apologize for the people I bit back. But if you go back to it, if you do a personal attack, be careful, don't go there. If you got a problem with the police department, say police department. Okay? When you say you got a problem with Ryan, then it becomes a personal attack. I will say to David while he's here, yeah, we're aware of that. And there is talk about a county police force like deal. But then again, the bottom line is money. For them to do the county, they're asking $170K. Well, that's going to come from where? Our current police budget. So, how do you...
Lack thereof.
Yeah, or lack thereof, whatever. And how do you work all that in together? But one thing I've realized is that I love this city, and it's not perfect. I'll tell you that right now. It's not perfect. I moved here from Florida, for crying out loud. And some of you guys that visit Florida think it's the best thing in the world. But my counter to that is, have you ever lived there? It's 10 times worse than what you got here. Here, you got local businesses that care. You could go to the bank and forget your ID card. You could go, your kids could do almost anything they want in a blue ribbon school. And we don't make much, we don't do a lot of talk about our elementary school. And Titus Staples is going up on 15 November to receive the award in D.C., in Washington, D.C., for Blue Rapids Elementary, and I think that's awesome.
You can start with this one, Jerry. I'll let you just keep the mic in your hand with it. Just speaking on potential synergies with the city of Waterville, has that discussion been brought up before? And if not, do you plan to continue those conversations if you were to be elected as mayor?
I tell you what, I will bring it up. I'm going to always bring it up. I think we need to do, I got a good friend of mine here, Carl. He's from Waterville. I keep looking at him. He's also a West Point grad. And one of the things is, and he knows as well as I do, if we cooperate, we graduate. We could do 10 times better than what we're doing. Unfortunately, the porcupines come out. Every time you mention it, who are the porcupines? It's that self-interest gets in the way of what we want to do. Can we do things better? And the answer is yes. And right now, for grants, and I handle grants and I've been trained in grants, they're going to a regional perspective. So if Waterville has water problems, we have water problems. Frankfurt has water problems. Marysville, let's get together and write each grant, and you're likely to get it. But if we just go by ourselves, man, we can't even get a small grant anymore. And that's where it's going to. So yes, I will always do that. But at the same time, each city has its own strengths. They have an active Waterville connection. I went to the meeting the other day. They're active. They're a lot younger than us. They have a lot of things going on with Idlewild Park. They got a person that bought 6 buildings in downtown Waterville, and they're working on improving it. So they got things going on, and you know what? Competition is good. And I would challenge them, see what we got. Come on, bring it on. Carl, we're ready for you. So we want to be part of what you're doing too, because you guys do a lot of good things.
The question was, if you were to engage with Waterville in terms of connecting synergies, to help both communities out, how do you plan to engage in those conversations and continue them on if successful?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I know our water isn't the greatest. There's a lot of things around there that need fixed. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. But, I mean, we can sit around all day and talk about it. Where's that going to get us? Ain't going to get us nowhere. But anyways, I'm done. My thing is, if you guys don't want nothing to change, you know who to vote for. If you guys want to see some change, vote same. I'm done.
Thank you, David. Have a good evening. We appreciate you being here. And then thank you, everyone, too, as well, for being here. We do appreciate you sticking around here. But we'll wrap it up here in just a little bit. I did have one more question, Jerry. I'll go ahead and ask it here before I let you close. As a potential development, what are your thoughts or feelings on either a micro-housing development or an RV park as a revenue source for the community?
Absolutely. The Housing Committee actually studied that. Like tiny homes and small homes and RV parks and everything else. Anything to attract people here, we're willing to consider. But what happened was, while in the process of doing that, we found a contractor that's willing to put stick-built homes. Okay, on 3 lots. So all of a sudden that became the priority. But I will tell you, I'm tired of talking about it. Everywhere I've been, I spoke in Waterville, in Marysville, last week to a group of economic developers. Hey, we got to start doing something. It's about land, it's about money, it's about contractors. And they all have to work in synergy together. And we have to make it possible to do it. Unfortunately, we get stuck in the weeds about, well, a 1-bedroom, 2-bed house, well, that ain't gonna work. Or everybody needs a basement, or everybody needs a carport. That's not getting houses here. And you know what's interesting? The developer, if you get him here, how do you keep him here? You know how do you keep him here? Being who you are. Welcoming, hi, friendly, ask questions. Give them a cup of water or a beer. Give them some wine. I don't know what it takes. But that's what's going to attract them to stay here or in the county. And we have to be able to be part of that solution.
Well, like I said, too, we did have some more mayoral questions. Unless anyone opposes, I'm not going to ask them as we only have one candidate left. You're more than welcome to grab Jerry, obviously, afterwards. I believe everyone has been very open, too, about talking outside of this room, too, as well, about concerns coming up, not only from the mayoral candidate standpoint, but also from the city council standpoint, too. And that was the whole point of tonight, too, was to hopefully open up some conversation and to start bringing some topics to life that we can start the communication process and involvement, too, here from everyone. So we're going to wrap this up here real quick. I'm going to give you each 1 minute to do a closing statement, and then we'll be out of here.
Well, I guess, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and showing support for this event. Go out and vote. That's all I can ask, and I would appreciate your vote. And next council meeting, everybody show up.
I'd like to offer my thanks to everybody to show up. I spent a lot of time talking about complaints and issues that we're facing, and certainly we have all of those, but I'd just like to point out that I think we have a tremendous future. I think we have a unique community in that we have some things to offer. We have, basically, if somebody wants to come in with a business or a home, we have a blank canvas and welcome arms. I think that's true. So hopefully those people would show up. I think there's opportunity with us being close to Manhattan, that we could be a type of bedroom community. There's a lot of jobs being created and offered, and it's not so much of a drive. I do it every day. One of the things that I wanted to do in maintaining that job was I get to earn money outside of the community, bring it back here to spend it. That was a big consideration in keeping that position down there. So I think we have a great future across the board. And one of the things that always sticks with me, we had an ag teacher here, Dan Palmetier, and I remember when we were preparing for some competitions, he looked at us and he said, you know, somebody's going to win. It might as well be us. And I think he meant just buckle down and prepare, but what really that means is that all of us have a tremendous amount of talent and something to bring to the table. And I just want to encourage everybody, whatever that is, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a business, whatever it is, tap down into what you have in talent and something to offer. And honestly, if you want to, you can be the best at it and bring that out. I mean, that's what we have the opportunity for in a small community here. We talk about the ordinances and the restrictions on this and that, but really we have a tremendous amount of opportunity and freedoms that we enjoy here, and we want to keep those open. And the other part of this that I think about a lot is our community is a little bit of an island. We're surrounded by flood areas on two sides and then high-value farmland on the other sides. So I don't know that we have a tremendous amount of room to expand. And if we don't continue to improve the community, we're going to basically die as a community, and that higher value land is going to encroach, and eventually there'll be no more Blue Rapids. So we want to take this opportunity to develop what we do have and to build on the footprint that we have, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that. But one of the things we talk about with all the taxes and that sort of thing, we can't maintain that with a decreasing population. So we have to figure out a way to bring people in, bring them in to spend money on the activities and things that we host here in our town, and bring them in with the property taxes with new buildings and new properties being acquired.
We're going to be voting here pretty soon. There's going to be two of us sitting here going to be victorious. One of us going to be a loser. I can assure you that any one of us three, the loser, will support the two winners.
In the radiance of equality, Jerry, I'll let you close out with a minute statement for yourself too as well.
Well, I want to thank everybody for showing up. This is actually a very good turnout. I want to thank the city council, the five, that don't ever get any credit for the hard work that they do and for putting up with me for all these years, and for reading my 1 hour long council updates every week, and being able to put them together to come up with an action plan for the city. I'd like to thank the department heads that are all here for your work and your dedication to the city, and continue. And I would like to leave with, take a look around. Just take a look around. We have come a long ways. We really have. And we could do a lot better. And yeah, there's problems, I get it. There's problems. But can we work together to make them right? And that's what I ask you. Let's work together. Show up the council. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We're all volunteers. I do it, they do it because they love the city. I do it because I love the city. So with that, go. And I'd like to leave with one note so that everybody's clear about my position. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and He has been my Lord and Savior. I'm not a Bible buff, but without God, a city will die, and I can prove it to you. And so, we have a new pastor here. Stand up, Jacob, Pastor Jacob. He's right there, he's a young, and he's about 25, and there's his wife. We want to welcome him to the community and let him know what we're all about. Thank you for coming. And I always, Blue Rapids is going places. And if you don't believe me, go to Topeka. They know where Blue Rapids is.
again, thank you to Jerry and David and the 3 council members for being here this evening. We appreciate you. We appreciate all you that came to as well. I think this over, speaking for me, myself, Terry, and Charlie back there, I think this is more than what we were looking for. We appreciate you all coming out tonight, spending your time. You're more than welcome to hang around, eat some cookies, because I'm not going to eat them all. Ask the questions that didn't get asked, and everyone have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.
Everybody, let's give